first performer of the evening, and that's Laurence Hutchman. And I have a little something here. Yes. And I have a little something that Laurence wants you all to know about him. Laurence Hutchman has published 9 books of poetry, including Foreign National, Emery, Beyond Borders, Selected Poems, Reading the Water, and recently released Personal Encounters. His book, In the Writer's Words, Conversations with 8 Canadian Poets, was published in 2011. He also co-edited Coastlines, the poetry of Atlantic Canada. For his literary achievement in 2007, he received the Alden Nolan Award for Excellence, won first and third prizes in the poetry competition in the WFMB, and given numerous writing grants. He has done more than 300 readings, only 300 readings, and workshops in Canada, the United States, Ireland, Bulgaria, and China. For over 35 years, he has taught at universities in Canada and the United States, and if that weren't enough, he has a book coming out in September. So please, without further ado, please give a warm welcome all the way to the stage to Laurence Hutchman.
Oh, it's great to be back at the Artbar. I've been here about 2008, it's a while ago, and I feel privileged to read in this particular time, since the series is ending, the end of the month. It's been a great series. So I'm going to start off with a poem called Passing Through Customs. There's been a little talk about borders recently. And I lived in Evanston, New Brunswick for many years, on the border of the United States and Canada, not far from the border of Quebec. Passing through customs. If you can understand the difficulty of traversing customs and the questions, where are you from? Where are you going? As you wait in the drizzling rain for the train to move on, and you can cross the tracks into another country. If you can move beyond the sensations of your skin, the hard edges of your mind, into some wild or dangerous terrain, and if you can permanently break with your old physical idea of order to see the weaving grasses, then you can navigate these streets and head out into open country. If you can move beyond the politics of blood and the tyranny of signs, and if you can break with what you consider taste and touch the rain as if it were your thought, then you can move out into that other country. If you can go beyond the idea of borders, pass through these customs, then you would discover the integrity of bridges, the originality of streams, the fecundity of ponds, and you would move among the enduring mountains to the valley that holds countries together. Robin Williams used to have a lot of bottles of water, so I'm content with one. This painting is called La Dentelière. It's based on a painting of Vermeer. Bent over your lace, everything in your body draws me toward your hands. I can feel the tension as you pull the strands of thread. The way you bend is your inclination to thread the form of fabric. Your cheeks and hidden smile, if it is a smile at all, are directed to the point in the sewing of the blue cloth. So I observe you concentrating on the points of the pattern you make. I feel the motion of your hands, forearms, shoulders, threading your life, forgetting about children, family, history, weaving them through your fingers. How Vermeer has poised your eloquent fingers, your needle suspended in perfect tension, I look at you in that gold and white dress. The blue fabric is so tactile, I could run my fingers over it. Lace maker, you spin fabric out of yourself. Draw me into the flowers of the sun as you float there, alive to the graceful interaction of work and life. My father was a fisherman. He always thought he was the best fisherman. This is a poem I wrote about fishing. Reading the water. I recollect weekend trips, my father following red and yellow lines on maps to obscure places with aboriginal names. Trips that began on forlorn bridges, rivers that suddenly disappeared into tangled undergrowth, narrowed to open fields and high grasses. He had strategies I could only imagine as he followed the curves of the river, a soldier on a subversive campaign, recalling something no doubt mother had said that drove him away from his family to these hedge-lined fields where the water was black and rushing. He stood in the water, hip waders against the current, and waited for the speckled, the brown, the rainbow, moving slowly until he chose the right fly, the appropriate angle, lassoing the line, casting it out into an S above the current, tugging at it, playing the waters with his fingers, reading its bubbles as notes on some aqua score, reading the sounds, the currents, the silences, marks on a rippling dark page. He waited for the change in tension. Timing was all. He could wait there, wait almost all morning, so it seemed. And I followed him, continually onward, to catch that fish. I read my mother some poems before I came here to practice, and she was not pleased with this poem. I'll tell you what she said after. Chinese erotic scene at the Royal Ontario Museum. After passing by the bronze horses, vases, bowls, they suddenly, in the 1st or 2nd century, in the Eastern Han Dynasty, a scene on a gray stone sculpted. Man is making love to a woman on a carpet of the forest. A group of onlookers stands before it. It's a picture of a rape scene or a prostitute with men waiting. One woman cries out, "Oh, I don't like that one," says another. "Let's go on to the good times." The group is embarrassed and wants to move on. The guide leading the group away murmurs, "Perhaps those are the good times." Beside me, a professor of Chinese says, "This work was banned in Fort Leavenworth. It's all in gray, finely etched. The man is about to enter the woman. A basket and cane beside her. Her legs slide over his shoulders. So long ago. And a smaller friend behind him slowly pushes his buttocks. What are friends for?" says a professor of Chinese. And the woman's clothes dangle in the branches. In the sunlit afternoon, as the monkeys chatter above them, peering down, enjoying their fun, and the peacock spreads his feathers. It's afternoon. The third man stands behind a tall tree with an erection. There's a buzz in the air. It's late afternoon and sunny. Perhaps this is a fertility rite or a legend. Who knows now? Somewhere in a warm afternoon in the late 2nd century AD in China. So she said it's pornography, isn't it? Robert Bly talked about object poems. Sometimes when we focus on an object, we see it almost for the first time, and we're transported, we're almost transcended by the object. It seems to have a light blowing around it, or something unusual happens to it. You know, it happened once with my children when I saw a spoon at lunchtime, and suddenly the spoon had attained the level of spoonness, you know. And so this time I had a kind of insight about pencil. You are yellow, the color of the evening sun, rare as a harvest moon. You are composed of graphite, from the Greek graphein to write. You are mined from the earth. I'm writing with your carbon. I love the sound of writing, the way words sound, the way they appear. I feel the force in my fingers, the movement like a rudder through water. Sometimes you go almost silent, as a sigh, or just move smoothly like fingers across the lover's shoulder. I love the action of writing, the way I conjure words out of the world when I look through the frame of the room, as a road lighted by the archipelago of light bulbs, drawn like a bracelet over the dark snowy hillsides. It invites me into the journey of the night, and the evening itself becomes a mise-en-scène. Pencil, yours is a kingdom of rocks and earth. Write me on this page, write me slowly. When the movement of the earth takes the energy of the carbon, leaving itself on the page. It is a moment of kinesthesia, electricity exploding at a molecular level, the transferred energy in its private metaphors moving me toward the horizon of the earth, beyond your end. This poem is about Al Purdy. You know Al Purdy, it's that guy on the Queen's Park lawn. I interviewed him around 1991, and this poem is based partially on that interview. He also took a couple of my poems for Store Morning back in the 70s, a long time ago. I was driving past the Brunswick Tavern today, and I remembered Purdy, looming figure when I first saw him, talking about poems. Al Purdy's place. I turned the road to Amesburg. Nearly 20 years since, I visited this place where you wandered among large beams through the old grist mill, searching for dust motes of sunlight until you stared into the face of Owen Robin. The '73 Ford is gone. Your tall, lanky figure does not stride to meet me. The waters of Robin Lake are rough. Around broken boards I step to see wooden chairs weathered on the deck. Urith, Michael Ondaatje, Margaret Laurence would have drunk beer late into the summer night. The old cabin where you built as a study is gone, locked. In the old box by the door I found a lamp that would have shone on the hiccuping typewriter, and the poems that spoke of Fidel on Revolutionary Square, of Gus and you before the Kremlin, searching for the ghost of Helen in the dusty city of Troy, recounting the tough Terra Mara woman in Mexico, and senses evoking the ghosts of Machu Picchu and your friend Earl. You sat in that study until it became the freight car across the prairies into the sudden mountains, until the dust of the land entered you and those voices speaking now through your poems. You were working on reaching for the Beaufort Sea, talking about time, how we continually mourn the past, and how we live on a thin edge, a slice of time that exists only in the present before it becomes the past. 2. The rough gravel of Prairie Lane, I drive to the cemetery along the river. There in the wet grass is a black shiny tomb with a wet spine, voice of the land. Someone has left a note and stuck a ballpoint pen in the earth. Red and white lilies shine in the rain. I remember that letter from Amesburg with the invitation to send you poems. I remember your distinctive voice with its currents of wit and humor, its changing wind, a gusto, a build-up and release. I remember that time in Gitanos after so many sangria where we argued poetry late into the night. Here, the world breathes still under the maple tree. gnarled, its branches reaching through the air in many directions. I remember Purdy, when I got there, I began asking him questions in the interview. And my second question was, poetry is about the making of yourself. Purdy kind of looked at us. What do you mean, making yourself? Well, it's interesting. Don't you ever wonder how you began to write poetry and who influenced you and why you're writing the way you are? I like it too. He was quite a man. Painting for, it's the painting, it's a poem is a painting. Sometimes a poem becomes a painting, you know. You know, a page, kind of like a ekphrastic poem here. A poem of my wife Eva. Your painting is called Forever. How is it you're able to paint light and ask us to reconsider what light is, or rain, the spectrum of the rain breaking up into unrecognizable shapes of the city, into fractured neon bursts? It seems the light is raining, or is it raining light? And we pause to listen to rain in the continual jazzy night. How do you break up the wetness of air, its silvery sheen lines into the explosive and red traffic lights of the yellow scepter of lamps? How do you paint water's ebb and flow as if you were looking at the water until it becomes part of you? When you paint the landscape, you draw us into a pale, meditative sky. Zest. I don't know what zest is. Zest. The white, bitter pulp makes the taste buds stand up. Feel the split, the crackle, the dazzle. Feel the spray, a sea wave, around the coastal edges. Let your lips be the beach. Roll the soft tongue into the grooves of the orange. This is the way to taste life. A heaven-blessed inlet, a droplet of perfume, that perfect quenching of thirst, that satisfaction. What your mouth was born to do. So for my final poem, I'm going to write about dream, and about a particular dream. I think poetry comes from dreams. As Yates said, in dreams begin responsibility. And so this is, I'm sure you've had similar kind of dreams. This is called Poetry Reading Dream. I mean, you've all seen this. You've all, maybe some of you experienced it, and it's so painful sometimes when you're in the middle of it and you can't do anything about it. So the dream incarnated this form. Poetry Reading Dream. Have you ever been in a dream and tried to read the poem you wrote, or at least you imagined you wrote, but couldn't because it wasn't there? I'm going through the pages, but the book is nearly blank. There's not one single, fully recognizable poem. This is a nightmare. I continue going through the books, and now I'm starting to lose it. Every time I find a book, there's something wrong with it, and the audience is getting larger. People hanging all over the place. I scavenge through the archival pile looking for the poetry in all this mess. Suddenly, the small, dingy, fake Parisian studio space becomes a large Montreal bibliothèque. Half the walls disappear. I'm in a country with parks and rivers and mountains, and I feel as high as a mountain, and I begin with a poem. I'm walking in the city, and there was music everywhere, and everything was light, light. There was rhythm in every motion, every thought, every glance. and I was enjoying it, grooving with it. My body is swinging and moving. You have to look for the mountains in the city. You didn't know that they have mountains in Montreal? Look at them, ladies and gentlemen. Look beyond your library eyes to the glowing peaks. Feel the mountains in your blood, in your hands, in your feet. Let them sing in your veins. Let them tell you how to speak. Let them swing, shake, and break you. Let the mountains speak with you from every corner of your life, from every lighted space of your being. Let them sing, and out of every neglected moment and every impossible dream, let the mountains sing with you. Let them awaken you to their eyes. And the audience is swaying there with me. I can see the mountains in their eyes. I can feel the excitement in their veins. I can sense the hunger for the ordinary. I can touch their elemental game. Why can't every poetry reading be like this?